The wine was breathing, the steaks were marinating, and I was about to discover that 18 years of marriage could evaporate with a single text message. Emergency work dinner, I'll make it up to you. M. I stared at my phone, sitting alone at our dining room table with 2 place settings and a bottle of our wedding wine I'd been saving for this exact anniversary. The irony wasn't lost on me. Marta had forgotten our anniversary 3 years running, but tonight, when I'd actually planned something special, she bails for work. Again. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. My name is Nick Patterson, and I'm a financial manager at Henderson & Associates, which sounds more impressive than it is. I balance books for small businesses and help middle-class families figure out their retirement plans. Marta works at Crawford Advertising, where she's been climbing the corporate ladder with the determination of someone fleeing a burning building. I took a long sip of the wine, a 2006 Cabernet we'd bought on our honeymoon in Napa. It tasted like disappointment with hints of oak. My phone buzzed again. This time, it wasn't Marta. Check your email. You deserve to know. A friend. The subject line read, "Your wife's emergency work dinner." My hands shook as I opened the attachment. Screenshots of text messages between Marta and someone named Lucas. The messages were explicit, detailed, and recent. Very recent. Like, from this afternoon. Recent. "Can't wait to taste you again tonight," one read. Another, "Tell Nick you're working late. I've got the hotel room until midnight." There were photos, too. Marta and a man I didn't recognize kissing outside Romano's, our favorite restaurant, the place where I'd proposed. She was wearing the dress I'd bought her for Christmas. I sat there for a long moment, wine glass in one hand, phone in the other, trying to process what I was seeing. 18 years, 2 kids who were now adults and living their own lives, a mortgage we'd finally gotten under control, vacation photos covering the refrigerator, all of it suddenly feeling like elaborate set decoration for a play I didn't know I was acting in. The rational part of my brain told me to confront her, call her, demand answers. But a darker part, a part I didn't know existed until that moment, had a different idea entirely. I finished the wine, put on my jacket, and drove to the Marriott downtown. The valet recognized my car. I'd been there for business dinners before. "Evening, Mr. Patterson. Meeting running late?" "Something like that," I said, handing him the keys. I found them in the hotel bar first. Marta was laughing at something Lucas was saying, her hand on his arm. He was younger than me, maybe late 30s, with the kind of artificially white teeth and expensive haircut that screamed real estate or insurance sales. His wedding ring was conspicuously absent. They didn't see me. I watched from across the lobby as they finished their drinks and headed toward the elevators. Marta stumbled slightly. She'd always been a lightweight, and Lucas steadied her with his hand on her lower back. The gesture was familiar, practiced. This wasn't their first time. I followed at a distance, took the next elevator up. The hallway was empty when I reached the 7th floor. I could hear voices from behind door 712, laughter that made my stomach clench. Instead of knocking, instead of confronting them, I went back downstairs to the concierge. "I'd like to send something to room 712, I said. "A bottle of champagne and a congratulations card." "Certainly, sir. What's the occasion?" "Engagement," I lied smoothly. "Charge it to the room, please." I wrote the card myself. "Congratulations on your engagement. May your love be as eternal as your commitment to honesty." The management. Then I went to the parking garage and found Lucas's BMW. It was easy to spot, vanity plates reading "closer" and parked across 2 spaces like he owned the place. I keyed both sides, deep scratches that would cost thousands to repair. Then I went to the 24-hour grocery store down the street and bought a bottle of fish sauce. I poured the entire contents through the crack in his driver's side window. By the time I got home, I felt hollow, but strangely calm. I poured another glass of wine and sat in my living room, looking at the family photos on the mantel. Marta and me at Amelia's graduation. The four of us at Ross's wedding last year. Vacation pictures from Yellowstone, Hawaii, that disastrous camping trip where it rained for 4 days straight. All lies. Or maybe not lies exactly, but not the whole truth either. I was still sitting there when I heard a car door slam outside. Through the window, I saw Rachel Martinez walking up my front steps, a suitcase in her hand, and an expression on her face I'd never seen before. Rachel was Marta's best friend since college, my kid's honorary aunt, the woman who'd helped plan every birthday party and holiday gathering for the past 15 years. She was also going through a messy divorce from her cheating husband, Tom. I opened the door before she could knock. "We need to talk," she said, her voice tight. "Marta's not who you think she is." Rachel stood in my living room, still holding her suitcase, looking like she'd been crying. Her usually perfect teacher's appearance was disheveled, hair pulled back in a messy ponytail, no makeup, wearing jeans and a Northwestern University sweatshirt that had seen better days. "I've been sending you those messages," she said without preamble. "The anonymous tips, the photos, all of it." I set down my wine glass carefully. "Why?" "Because I'm tired of watching you get played." She dropped her suitcase with a thud. "And because Marta's been feeding Lucas information about my divorce, helping him steal clients from Tom's real estate firm. She's been playing both sides, Nick. You and me both." The pieces started clicking together. Lucas was a real estate agent. Tom was a real estate agent. In a city this size, they'd definitely be competitors. "How long have you known?" I asked. "About the affair? 3 months? About her helping Lucas screw over Tom? I just found out last week." Rachel sat down heavily on my couch. "She's been coming to my place, pretending to console me about my marriage, then taking everything I tell her straight back to Lucas. He's been using insider information to poach Tom's biggest clients." I thought about the congratulations card being delivered to their hotel room right about now. "I may have done something stupid tonight." Rachel looked at me with interest. "How stupid?" I told her about following them, about the card, about the fish sauce in Lucas's car. Instead of looking horrified, she started laughing. Not polite laughter, but the kind of deep, cathartic laughter that comes from months of suppressed rage finally finding an outlet. "Fish sauce," she said, wiping her eyes. "That's brilliant. Do you know how impossible that smell is to get out?" I was angry. I wasn't thinking clearly. "No, you were thinking perfectly clearly." She leaned forward, her expression serious again. "Nick, they're not just having an affair. They're planning to take you for everything you're worth. I saw the papers." My blood went cold. "What papers?" Rachel opened her purse and pulled out a manila folder. "Marta left these at my place last week. I think she was going to ask me to notarize something, but then she got distracted by a phone call and forgot them. Inside were divorce papers, preliminary papers but detailed ones. Marta was claiming emotional abandonment, citing my workaholic tendencies and emotional unavailability. She was asking for the house, half my retirement accounts, and alimony. "She's been documenting everything," Rachel continued, "taking photos of you working late, recording conversations where you sound tired or distracted, building a case." I felt like I was drowning. "The kids?" "She's already talked to them, told them you've been distant lately, that she's worried about your mental health. She's positioning herself as the concerned wife, trying to save a failing marriage." This was worse than just an affair. This was a systematic dismantling of my life, orchestrated by the person I'd trusted most in the world. "There's more," Rachel said quietly. "She's been keeping a journal. About everyone. You, me, Tom, her co-workers, even her own parents. She writes down every embarrassing thing people tell her, every secret, every weakness. Like she's collecting ammunition. Where is this journal? Her laptop, the old one she keeps in the bedroom closet. She thinks you don't know about it. I did know about it. Marta had claimed it was broken, but I'd seen her using it late at night when she thought I was asleep. Why are you telling me this? I asked. Rachel was quiet for a long moment. Because she destroyed my marriage too. Not directly, but Tom started cheating after Lucas stole his 3 biggest clients. The stress, the financial pressure, it changed him. And Marta knew Lucas was using her information to hurt Tom, but she didn't care. She actually thought it was funny. I looked at this woman I'd known for 15 years, really looked at her for the first time. Rachel had always been the steady one, the reliable friend who showed up with casseroles during family crises and remembered everyone's birthdays. But there was steel underneath that Midwest niceness, and right now, that steel was showing. What do you want to do about it? I asked. I want to make them pay, she said simply. Both of them. I want them to feel what we've felt. I want them to lose everything that matters to them. And what's that? Their reputations, their careers, their social standing, everything they've built by stepping on people like us. I thought about Marta's carefully curated social media presence, her networking events, her obsession with what the neighbors thought. I thought about Lucas's vanity plates and his BMW parked across 2 spaces. I'm listening, I said. Rachel smiled, and for the first time since she'd arrived, she looked like herself again. First, we need to get into that laptop. Then we need to start playing their game better than they do. My phone buzzed. A text from Marta. Working really late tonight. Don't wait up. I showed the message to Rachel. She shook her head in disgust. She's not even trying to be subtle anymore. Good, I said, surprising myself with the coldness in my voice. That makes this easier. I went to the kitchen and opened another bottle of wine. When I came back, Rachel was looking at our family photos on the mantel. I'm sorry, Nick. I know this isn't how you wanted your anniversary to go. Actually, I said, handing her a glass, I think this might be the most honest conversation I've had in years. We spent the next 2 hours going through everything Rachel knew about Marta's plans, Lucas's business practices, and the network of lies they'd built around their affair. By the time we finished, we had the beginnings of a plan that would have made Machiavelli proud. Are you sure you want to do this? Rachel asked as she prepared to leave. Once we start, there's no going back. I thought about the fish sauce slowly permeating Lucas's expensive car, about the congratulations card that had probably ruined their romantic evening, about 18 years of marriage built on a foundation that was apparently made of sand. I'm sure, I said, but I have one condition. What's that? We do this right. No violence, nothing illegal. We use their own weapons against them. Information, reputation, social pressure. We make them destroy themselves. Rachel nodded. I can live with that. After she left, I sat alone in my living room, surrounded by the remnants of my planned anniversary dinner. The steaks had gone bad hours ago, and the wine was almost gone. But for the first time in months, I felt like I had a purpose. Marta came home at 2 a.m., smelling like hotel soap and making too much noise in the bathroom. She slipped into bed beside me, probably thinking I was asleep. How was work? I asked quietly. She froze for just a moment. Long, difficult client. I'm sorry to hear that, I said. Maybe tomorrow will be better. Maybe, she agreed, already turning away from me. I lay there in the dark, listening to her breathe, planning my next move. Tomorrow, I would start becoming someone new, someone who didn't get played, someone who played back. The next morning, Marta was gone before I woke up. She'd left a note on the kitchen counter. Early meeting. Dinner tonight to make up for yesterday? I crumpled the note and threw it away. Then I called in sick to work for the first time in 3 years. Rachel arrived at 10 with coffee and a laptop bag. She'd changed clothes since last night. Now she looked like the professional educator she was, in a crisp blouse and dark slacks. But her eyes had the same steel I'd seen the night before. "Ready to do some research?" she asked. We set up in my home office, a spare bedroom I'd converted years ago when I started doing freelance bookkeeping. Rachel had brought her own laptop, and I fired up my desktop computer. We had work to do. First, we accessed Marta's old laptop. She'd hidden it in the bedroom closet behind a box of winter clothes. The password was embarrassingly easy to guess. Amelia 2003, our daughter's name and birth year. What we found was worse than Rachel had described. Marta's journal wasn't just gossip and secrets. It was a detailed psychological profile of everyone in her life, complete with notes on how to manipulate them. About me. Nick's biggest weakness is his need to be the good guy. He'll sacrifice his own interests to avoid conflict, use guilt and disappointment to control him. He's also insecure about money, constantly worried about retirement, college funds, etc. Financial pressure makes him compliant. About Rachel. Rachel pretends to be strong, but she's desperate for approval. Compliment her teaching, ask her advice, make her feel important. She'll do anything to avoid being alone. The divorce has made her vulnerable. Perfect time to use her for information about Tom's business. About our kids. Amelia inherits Nick's people-pleasing tendencies. Ross is more like me, ambitious and practical. If the marriage ends, Ross will understand, but Amelia will need careful management to accept the divorce. There were dozens of entries like this. Her parents, her boss, her co-workers, even the neighbors. Everyone was reduced to a set of psychological pressure points to be exploited. Jesus, I muttered, scrolling through months of calculated manipulation. It gets worse, Rachel said. She was reading over my shoulder, her face pale. Look at the entries about Lucas. Those entries were different, more detailed, more intimate, and they went back almost a year. She's been planning this divorce since last Christmas, I said, reading an entry dated December 28th. Look at this. Need to establish pattern of Nick's emotional unavailability. Started documenting his work habits. Lucas thinks I should wait until after tax season, Nick's most stressed time, to file papers. Rachel pointed to another entry. And here's where she talks about using me to get information about Tom's clients. She actually wrote down my private conversations and passed them to Lucas word for word. We spent the morning documenting everything, taking screenshots, organizing the information into folders. By noon, we had enough material to destroy both of them professionally and socially. So what's our first move? Rachel asked. I'd been thinking about that. We need to be strategic. If we dump everything at once, it looks like revenge. But if we leak information gradually, let them make their own mistakes. It looks like they're destroying themselves, Rachel finished. Exactly. My phone rang. Marta's name appeared on the screen. Hi, honey, I answered, putting it on speaker so Rachel could hear. Nick, I have some bad news. Lucas Brennan, you know, from the real estate office downtown, someone vandalized his car last night, keyed it and poured some kind of fish oil inside. Isn't that terrible? I met Rachel's eyes. She was fighting back laughter. That's awful, I said. Do they know who did it? No, but Lucas thinks it might be connected to his business. He's been very successful lately, and some people get jealous. The police are investigating. Well, I hope they catch whoever did it. Me too. Anyway, I felt bad for him, so I'm going to help him look for a new car today. I might be late tonight. Of course you are, I said. Take your time. After she hung up, Rachel shook her head in amazement. She's not even pretending anymore. She's going car shopping with her boyfriend and telling you about it. Which gives us the perfect opportunity, I said. If they're going to be together all day, they won't be monitoring their social media or email. We started with Lucas's business. Rachel had done her homework. She'd found his company website, his LinkedIn profile, and his professional Facebook page. More importantly, she'd found the online reviews for his real estate firm. "Look at this," she said, pulling up a review site. "He's got dozens of 5-star reviews, but they're all fake. Same writing style, posted within days of each other, most of them from accounts that were created just to leave the review." "That's against the terms of service for most review sites," I said. "If we report it with evidence, his rating tanks, and it shows up in search results." We spent an hour documenting the fake reviews, cross-referencing account creation dates and writing patterns. Then, we submitted detailed reports to Google, Yelp, and the Better Business Bureau. Next, we turned our attention to Marta's social media presence. She was obsessed with her image, carefully curated photos of our family, inspirational quotes about success and happiness, professional accomplishments. Her Facebook friends list read like a who's who of the local business community. "She's tagged at Romano's restaurant last night," Rachel noted, scrolling through Marta's recent posts. "Posted a photo of her dinner with the caption, 'Working dinner with a colleague. Sometimes business happens in the most beautiful places.'" "She's documenting her own affair," I said. "She's so confident that she's not even being careful. That's going to bite her." We screenshotted everything, organizing it into a timeline that clearly showed the pattern of lies. Late work nights that coincided with Lucas's social media posts from the same locations. Business dinners at romantic restaurants. Client meetings that happened on weekends at hotels. By mid-afternoon, we had built a comprehensive case, but we weren't ready to deploy it yet. "We need to test the waters first," I said. "See how they react to pressure." Rachel nodded. "What did you have in mind?" I pulled up the contact information for Crawford Advertising's HR department. "Marta's company has a strict policy about conflicts of interest and outside business relationships. If someone were to raise concerns about an employee's relationship with a vendor or competitor, they'd have to investigate." "Exactly. And Lucas's real estate firm works with several advertising agencies for their marketing. If Crawford started asking questions about that relationship..." We crafted a careful email to Crawford's HR director, expressing concerns from a community member about potential conflicts of interest between their employee Martha Patterson and Lucas Brennan of Brennan Real Estate. We didn't make any direct accusations, just raised questions and provided public information about their professional interactions. We sent it from a generic email account Rachel had created, then sat back to wait. "How long do you think it'll take?" Rachel asked. "HR departments move slowly, but they take conflict of interest issues seriously. I'd guess they'll start asking questions within a week." My phone buzzed with a text from Marta. "Found the perfect car for Lucas, spending the evening helping him with paperwork. Don't wait up again." I showed the message to Rachel. "She's getting sloppy." "Good. Sloppy people make mistakes." That evening, Rachel and I ordered pizza and continued our research. We found Lucas's divorce records. He'd been married twice, both marriages ending in accusations of infidelity. We found complaints filed against his real estate license for questionable business practices. We found a pattern of behavior that painted him as exactly the kind of person who would steal clients and seduce married women. "He's done this before," Rachel said, reading through court documents from his second divorce. His ex-wife accused him of having affairs with clients and using inside information from her job at a mortgage company to benefit his business. "And Marta thinks she's special," I said. "She thinks she's different from all the other women he's used. She's about to learn otherwise." We worked until almost midnight, building files, documenting evidence, planning our next moves. When Rachel finally packed up her laptop, I walked her to the door. "Thank you," I said, "for all of this. I know you're taking a risk." "We both are," she replied, "but some risks are worth taking." After she left, I sat in my home office, looking at the evidence we'd gathered. Tomorrow, I would start implementing our plan. Tomorrow, I would begin the process of taking back my life. But tonight, I allowed myself a moment of grief for the marriage I'd thought I had, for the woman I'd thought I'd married, for the life I'd built on a foundation of lies. Tomorrow, I would stop being Nick the victim. Tomorrow, I would become Nick the strategist. The call came at 9:47 a.m. on Thursday morning. I was at my desk at Henderson & Associates, pretending to review quarterly reports while actually monitoring the various digital traps Rachel and I had set. "Nick, it's Marta. Can you talk?" Her voice was tight, stressed in a way I hadn't heard in years. "Sure. What's up?" "Something weird is happening at work. HR wants to meet with me this afternoon about some kind of complaint. They won't tell me what it's about, just that it concerns professional conduct and potential conflicts of interest." I made appropriate concerned husband noises while mentally high-fiving Rachel. "That sounds serious. Do you have any idea what it could be about?" "None at all. I've been completely professional with all my clients and vendors. I can't imagine what anyone would complain about." The irony was so thick I could have spread it on toast. "I'm sure it's just a misunderstanding. You've always been ethical about work relationships." "I know, right? It's probably some disgruntled client making false accusations. But Nick, if this goes badly, it could affect my promotion. We might need to tighten our budget for a while." "We'll figure it out," I assured her. "We always do." After she hung up, I immediately texted Rachel, "HR meeting today, phase 1 successful." Her response came back within minutes. "Excellent. Phase 2 ready to deploy." Phase 2 was more subtle than our HR complaint. Rachel had created several fake social media accounts, not to harass anyone, but to amplify existing negative content about Lucas's business practices. When someone left a legitimate negative review about his real estate services, our fake accounts would share it, comment on it, boost its visibility. When local news outlets posted about real estate fraud in general, we made sure those posts appeared on Lucas's business page. We weren't creating lies. We were just making sure the truth got maximum exposure. The genius of it was that Lucas couldn't complain without looking paranoid. If he claimed he was being targeted, he'd have to explain why someone would target him, which would only draw more attention to his questionable business practices. That afternoon, I left work early and drove to Crawford Advertising. I didn't go inside. I just parked across the street and waited. At 4:30, I saw Marta emerge from the building. Even from a distance, I could tell the meeting hadn't gone well. Her usually perfect posture was slumped, and she was walking slowly. She sat in her car for almost 10 minutes before driving away. I followed at a distance, curious to see where she'd go. She went straight to Lucas's office. I parked down the block and watched as she hurried inside. Through the large windows of his real estate office, I could see them talking animatedly. Lucas looked agitated, gesturing with his hands. Marta kept shaking her head. My phone buzzed. Rachel was calling. "Are you busy?" she asked. "Actually, I'm conducting surveillance. Marta just went to Lucas's office after her HR meeting." "Perfect timing. I just got off the phone with my friend Jennifer at the Tribune. She's interested in doing a story about real estate fraud, and she's particularly interested in agents who use fake reviews and stolen client information." "How interested?" "Interested enough to start making phone calls tomorrow. Lucas's name might come up in her research." I watched through the window as Marta and Lucas's conversation became more heated. She stood up abruptly, grabbed her purse, and headed for the door. "I have to go," I told Rachel. "Marta's leaving, and she looks pissed." I made it home before Marta did, which gave me time to pour a glass of wine and settle into my chair with a book. When she walked in 20 minutes later, her face was flushed and her eyes were red. "How did the meeting go?" I asked, looking up from my book with what I hoped was appropriate spousal concern. "Terrible." She slumped onto the couch. "Someone filed a complaint claiming I have inappropriate relationships with vendors and competitors. HR spent 2 hours grilling me about every business dinner I've had in the past 6 months. That's ridiculous. Who would do something like that?" "I have no idea. The complaint was anonymous, but it included specific details about my interactions with various real estate professionals. Someone's been watching me, Nick, taking notes about who I eat lunch with, where I go for client meetings. I frowned, playing the concerned husband. That's creepy. Did HR believe your explanations? I think so, but they're opening a formal investigation. They want documentation of all my business relationships, copies of all my client communications, a detailed log of my activities for the past 3 months. She rubbed her temples. This could kill my promotion. Even if they find nothing wrong, the investigation itself makes me look bad. I'm sorry, honey. Is there anything I can do to help? She looked at me for a long moment, and I wondered if she suspected something, but then her expression softened. Just be patient with me while I deal with this mess. I might be distracted for a while. Of course. She went upstairs to shower, and I immediately texted Rachel. Investigation launched. She's rattled, but doesn't suspect us. Rachel's response: Good. Lucas is about to have a very bad day tomorrow. The next morning, I woke up to find Marta already gone. She'd left another note. Early meeting with HR. We'll call later. I was having coffee when my phone rang. Rachel sounded excited. Turn on Channel 7 News, she said. Jennifer's story is running this morning. I flipped on the TV just in time to catch the tail end of a segment about real estate fraud. Lucas's photo appeared on screen as the reporter discussed questionable business practices and fake online reviews. They didn't make any direct accusations, but the implication was clear. Holy shit, I breathed. It gets better. Jennifer's planning a follow-up story about conflicts of interest between real estate agents and other businesses. She's particularly interested in agents who might be receiving inside information from people in related industries. Like advertising? Exactly like advertising. My phone buzzed with an incoming call. Marta's name appeared on the screen. I have to take this, I told Rachel. Nick. Marta's voice was panicked. Are you watching the news? No, why? There's a story about Lucas's business. They're saying he uses fake reviews and questionable sales tactics. This is a disaster. I don't understand. Why is that a disaster for you? Because, she paused, clearly realizing she couldn't explain without admitting her relationship with Lucas. Because he's one of our clients. If he's involved in fraud, it reflects badly on our agency. I see. Well, I'm sure your HR department will understand that you can't control your client's behavior. I hope so. Nick, I might be working late again tonight. This whole situation is very complicated. I understand, I said. Take care of yourself. After she hung up, I called Rachel back. She's panicking, I reported. She can't figure out how to explain her connection to Lucas without admitting the affair. Perfect. Are you ready for Phase 3? Phase 3 was the most delicate part of our plan. We were going to force Marta and Lucas to make a choice, protect their careers or protect their relationship. We couldn't do both. What do you need me to do? I asked. Meet me at Starbucks on 5th Street in an hour. We need to talk strategy, and I have some interesting information about Lucas's business partners. An hour later, I sat across from Rachel in a crowded coffee shop, listening as she laid out the next stage of our plan. Lucas has 3 business partners, she explained. They're all clean, legitimate businessmen who have no idea about his side activities. But if they found out he was involved in fraud, or if they discovered he was having an affair with someone who might be feeding him inside information, they'd cut him loose to protect themselves. Exactly. And without his partners, Lucas loses access to their client base, their financing, everything. He'd be ruined. How do we make sure his partners find out? Rachel smiled. We don't have to. Marta's going to tell them herself. She explained how. Lucas's partners were all married men with strong religious backgrounds. They valued integrity and family values. If they believed Lucas was a liability, morally or legally, they'd act quickly to distance themselves from him. All we have to do is make sure they start asking the right questions, Rachel said. Once they start digging, they'll find everything on their own. And how do we do that? We use Marta's own words against her. Rachel pulled out her laptop and showed me what she'd been working on. Using Marta's journal entries, she'd created a timeline that showed exactly how Marta had been feeding Lucas information about Tom's clients, about Crawford Advertising's business practices, about confidential information she'd learned through her work. "We're going to send this to Lucas's partners anonymously," Rachel explained, "not as an accusation, but as a concerned citizen, warning them that their business partner might be engaging in unethical practices that could expose them to legal liability." It was brilliant. Lucas's partners would have to investigate to protect themselves, and once they started looking, they'd find all the evidence we'd already documented. "When do we send it?" I asked. "Tonight, after Marta's late work meeting with Lucas. Let them have one more romantic evening before their world starts falling apart." I looked at this woman who had become my partner in revenge, this mild-mannered teacher who had turned out to be a master strategist. "Are you sure you want to do this?" I asked. "Once we send this, there's no going back. Their careers will be over." Rachel's expression hardened. "They destroyed my marriage and tried to destroy yours. They used us, lied to us, manipulated us. They deserve everything that's coming to them." She was right. But as I sat there, looking at the evidence of my wife's betrayal spread across a coffee shop table, I realized I wasn't just destroying Marta's career. I was destroying the last remnants of the life we'd built together. "Okay," I said finally. "Let's do it." That night, as Marta texted me another excuse about working late, Rachel and I sent our carefully crafted warning to Lucas's business partners. Phase 3 was now in motion. The call came at 6:23 a.m. on Monday morning. I was making coffee when my phone rang, displaying a number I didn't recognize. "Mr. Patterson, this is Detective Sarah Walsh with the Metro Police. I need to speak with you about an incident involving Lucas Brennan's vehicle last week." My blood went cold, but I kept my voice steady. "Of course, officer. How can I help you?" "Mr. Brennan filed a report about vandalism to his car. We're interviewing people who might have information about his whereabouts that evening. Your wife Martha was listed as someone who had dinner with him that night." "I see. Well, Marta did mention having a work dinner that evening. She's still sleeping. Should I wake her up?" "That won't be necessary right now. We may need to speak with her later. Can you tell me where you were that evening between 8 and 11 p.m.? I had prepared for this question. I was home all evening, had dinner alone, my wife was working late, and watched Netflix. I think I watched 2 episodes of that new crime series, the one with the detective in Chicago. Can anyone verify that? My neighbor Mrs. Chen might have seen me taking out the trash around 9 p.m. And I ordered pizza around 8:30. You could check with Tony's Pizza on Maple Street. All true. I had ordered pizza after vandalizing Lucas's car, and I had taken out the trash. The beauty of a simple lie is that it's mostly truth. "We'll be in touch if we need anything else," Detective Walsh said. After she hung up, I sat in my kitchen, hands shaking slightly as I drank my coffee. This was getting real. But I'd been careful. No cameras in the hotel parking garage, no witnesses, and Lucas had probably made dozens of enemies through his business practices. Marta came downstairs 20 minutes later, already dressed for work, but moving slowly. "Who was on the phone so early?" she asked, pouring herself coffee. "Police. They're investigating the vandalism to Lucas's car. They wanted to know about your work dinner with him that night." She froze, coffee mug halfway to her lips. "What did you tell them?" "Just that you mentioned having a work dinner. Why? Is there something else I should know?" "No, of course not. It's just, this whole situation is getting out of hand. First the HR investigation, then the news story, now police asking questions. Lucas is really stressed." "I'm sure he is," I said sympathetically. "It must be hard having your business practices questioned so publicly." Marta gave me a sharp look. "His business practices are fine, Nick. This is all just coincidence and bad luck." "Of course. I didn't mean to imply otherwise." She left for work without kissing me goodbye, something that would have devastated me a week ago. Now it just felt like confirmation that we were moving in the right direction. Rachel texted me at 9 a.m. Emergency meeting. Coffee shop. Now. I found her in our usual corner booth, looking excited and nervous. Lucas's partners got our message, she said without preamble. Jennifer at the Tribune says they've been calling around asking questions about Lucas's business relationships and personal conduct. That was fast. It gets better. One of them called Crawford Advertising this morning, asking about Martha Patterson and whether she'd been providing confidential information to Lucas Brennan. My stomach dropped. Shit. That connects the dots for HR. Exactly. They now have outside confirmation that there might be an inappropriate relationship between Marta and Lucas. HR is going to have to take the investigation much more seriously. What about Lucas? Rachel's smile was predatory. His partners called an emergency meeting for this afternoon. Jennifer's source says they're planning to suspend him pending a full investigation into his business practices. Jesus, we really did it. We're not done yet. This afternoon, when they're both dealing with their respective crises, we implement Phase 4. Phase 4 was the nuclear option. We were going to release Marta's journal entries to her social circle, not all of them, just the ones that showed how she really felt about her friends and family. We'd crafted it as a concerned friend, warning people that Marta had been keeping detailed psychological profiles of everyone she knew. Are you sure about this? I asked. Once we do this, she'll be completely isolated. Her friends, her family, everyone will turn against her. She did this to herself, Nick. We're just making sure people know who she really is. That afternoon, I left work early and drove to a coffee shop near Crawford Advertising. I wanted to see Marta's face when she came out of what was undoubtedly the worst day of her professional life. She emerged at 4:47 p.m., carrying a cardboard box. They had fired her. I watched as she sat in her car for almost 15 minutes, crying. Part of me, the part that had loved her for 18 years, wanted to go to her, to comfort her, to help her through this crisis. But then I remembered the journal entries, the calculated manipulation, the year of planning my destruction while pretending to love me. Instead, I drove home and waited. She came through the door at 6 p.m., eyes red and face blotchy. She set the cardboard box on the kitchen counter and looked at me with an expression I'd never seen before, defeat mixed with something that might have been fear. I was fired, she said simply. What? Why? The investigation found evidence of inappropriate relationships with vendors. They said I violated company policy by sharing confidential information with outside parties. I stood up and moved toward her, playing the supportive husband one more time. Honey, I'm so sorry. This is obviously a mistake. We can fight this. She shook her head. It's not a mistake, Nick. I did share information with Lucas. I thought I was just helping a friend, but HR says it constitutes a conflict of interest. It was the first completely honest thing she'd said to me in months. We'll figure this out, I said, putting my arms around her. We'll get through this together. She started crying again, and I held her while she sobbed into my shirt. For a moment, it felt like we were a team again, like maybe there was a way back from all of this. Then my phone buzzed with a text from Rachel. Phase 4 deployed. Check your Facebook. The posts were already spreading through Marta's social network. Carefully selected journal entries that showed her true feelings about her friends, about her college roommate. Susan still acts like we're best friends, but she's basically a loser who peaked in college. I only maintain the friendship because her husband has connections in the banking industry. About her sister. Lisa's marriage problems are entirely her own fault. She's gained 40 pounds and stopped trying, but she's useful for free babysitting when needed. About her parents. Mom and Dad are so proud of my successful marriage. They have no idea Nick is basically a glorified bookkeeper who will never amount to anything. They'd be devastated if they knew how disappointed I am. The posts were spreading like wildfire. Comments were pouring in from shocked friends and family members. Marta's phone started ringing. She pulled away from me to answer it. "Hi, Susan." "What?" "No, I never said. Someone must have hacked my... I would never..." She hung up and stared at her phone in horror as more calls came in. "Nick," she whispered, "someone is posting things online. Private things. Things I wrote in my journal." "What kind of things?" She couldn't answer. Her phone was ringing constantly now. Text messages were pouring in. Her carefully constructed social world was collapsing in real time. "I have to go," she said suddenly, grabbing her purse. "I have to fix this." "Where are you going?" "To Lucas's. He'll know what to do." She rushed out, leaving her cardboard box of personal items on the kitchen counter. I looked through it while she was gone. Photos of office parties, a small plant, a coffee mug that read, "World's Best Account Executive." The detritus of a career destroyed. My phone rang. Rachel. "How's she taking it?" Rachel asked. "She's in full crisis mode. Went to Lucas for help." "She's not going to find much comfort there. His partners voted him out this afternoon. Effective immediately. They're also considering legal action to recover damages from his questionable deals." I felt a moment of vertigo. We had actually done it. We had systematically destroyed both of their careers and reputations in less than a week. "Rachel," I said slowly, "what have we become?" "We've become people who don't get stepped on," she replied. "We've become people who fight back." Marta didn't come home that night, or the next night. On Wednesday, she texted me. "Staying with my sister while I figure things out. We need to talk soon." That evening, Rachel came over with takeout Chinese food and a bottle of wine. "So, what happens now?" I asked as we sat in my living room, eating lo mein and watching the ruins of my marriage smolder around us. "Now we wait," she said. "Marta's going to have to make some hard choices. Her career is over, her social circle has turned against her, and Lucas is probably looking for someone to blame for his problems." "You think he'll throw her under the bus?" "I think Lucas is exactly the kind of man who saves himself first and worries about collateral damage later." She was right. The next morning, I found an article in the business section of the Tribune. Lucas Brennan was quoted extensively, claiming he had been manipulated by a vindictive woman seeking to damage her husband's business rivals. He painted himself as the victim of Marta's scheme, an innocent businessman who had been seduced and used. It was a masterful piece of deflection, and it threw Marta completely under the bus. My phone rang an hour later. Marta was crying. "Nick, you have to help me. Lucas is telling everyone that I manipulated him, that I seduced him to get information for you. He's making me look like some kind of corporate spy." The irony was stunning. Why would I want information about Tom's real estate clients? "I don't know, but that's what he's saying. He's claiming you put me up to the whole thing as revenge for Tom's divorce from Rachel." Even in her desperation, Marta was still lying. She couldn't admit that she'd acted out of her own greed and selfishness. "Marta," I said gently, "maybe it's time to tell the truth. About everything." There was a long silence. "I can't," she whispered. "I've lost everything else. If I lose you too..." "You lost me the moment you started planning to destroy our marriage," I said. "I found your journal, Marta. I know about the divorce papers, the psychological profiles, all of it." Another long silence. "How long have you known?" "Long enough." "Are you going to divorce me?" I looked around our living room, at the family photos and shared memories, at 18 years of what I'd thought was love. "Yes," I said. "But I'm going to be fair about it. I'm not going to take you for everything you're worth. I'm not going to try to turn the kids against you. I'm just going to end this marriage with whatever dignity we have left." She was crying again. "I'm so sorry, Nick. I never meant for it to go this far. I was scared of getting older, of being invisible. Lucas made me feel important." "I know," I said, "and I forgive you. But I can't trust you anymore. And without trust, we don't have a marriage. After she hung up, I sat in my kitchen, drinking coffee and thinking about the past week. Rachel and I had set out to make Marta and Lucas pay for their betrayal, and we had succeeded beyond our wildest expectations. But victory felt different than I'd expected. Emptier, more complicated. My phone buzzed with a text from Rachel. "Dinner tonight? We should celebrate." I stared at the message for a long time before responding. "Yes, but I think we need to talk about what comes next." Because revenge, I was learning, was just the beginning. The hard part was figuring out how to build a life from the ashes of the one you'd burned down. 6 months later, I stood in the kitchen of my house now, officially, making coffee for two. The divorce had been finalized the week before, remarkably amicable considering how it had started. Marta had moved to Phoenix to live with her cousin and start over. We'd split our assets fairly, and she'd agreed to let me keep the house in exchange for a larger share of my retirement account. The kids had taken it better than expected. Amelia was disappointed but not surprised. She'd sensed the tension during her last few visits home. Ross had been more philosophical about it, saying he'd rather see us both happy apart than miserable together. Rachel came downstairs wearing one of my old Northwestern t-shirts, her hair still messy from sleep. She'd moved in 3 months ago after her own divorce was finalized. It had been a gradual transition, a few nights a week at first, then most nights, then finally a complete relocation of her books, her coffee maker, and her cat. "Morning," she said, kissing my cheek as she reached for a coffee mug. "Morning. Sleep well?" "Better than I have in years." She settled into the chair across from me at the kitchen table. "I still can't believe how quiet it is here. No arguing, no tension, no walking on eggshells." We'd talked extensively about the ethics of what we'd done to Marta and Lucas. Rachel had fewer regrets than I did. She saw it as justice served, a necessary correction to the balance of power in our relationships. I was more conflicted about it, but I couldn't deny the results. Marta had eventually found work at a small advertising firm in Phoenix, making about half what she'd earned in Chicago. She'd also started therapy, something she mentioned during our brief phone conversations about logistics and paperwork. She seemed genuinely committed to understanding how she'd become someone capable of such systematic manipulation. Lucas had fared worse. His reputation in Chicago was destroyed, and he'd been forced to declare bankruptcy when several of his questionable deals fell through. Last I'd heard, he was working as a sales associate at a car dealership in Milwaukee, a significant come-down from his previous lifestyle. "Any regrets?" Rachel asked, reading my expression. "Sometimes," I admitted. "Not about ending the marriage. That needed to happen. But about the way we did it. The systematic destruction of their lives." "They were systematically destroying ours," Rachel pointed out. "You read Marta's journal. She was planning to take you for everything while making you look like an unstable workaholic. Lucas was using me to steal Tom's clients, which contributed to our divorce. I know, and logically, I know they deserved consequences for their actions. It's just..." "You're a good person, Nick. Good people feel guilty about hurting others, even when those people deserve it." She was right, but it was more complicated than that. The revenge had changed me, had awakened a part of my personality I hadn't known existed. I'd discovered I was capable of strategic thinking, of long-term planning, of ruthless execution when necessary. It was simultaneously empowering and unsettling. My phone buzzed with a text message. "Amelia. Dad, can you call me when you have a minute? I have some news." I dialed her number immediately. "Hi, Dad," she said, sounding excited. "I wanted to tell you before I posted on Facebook. David proposed last night." David was her boyfriend of 2 years, a software engineer she'd met at Northwestern. I liked him. He was steady, kind, and clearly adored my daughter. "That's wonderful, sweetheart. Congratulations. Have you set a date?" We're thinking next fall. Dad, I know this is awkward with you and Mom being divorced, but we want both of you at the wedding. Of course, we're both adults, and we both love you. We'll make it work. Thanks. And Dad, I'm really happy for you and Rachel. She's good for you. After I hung up, Rachel looked at me questioningly. Amelia's engaged, I said. Wedding next fall. That's wonderful. Are you okay with Marta being there? I think so. It's been 6 months, and we've both moved on. Besides, it's Amelia's day, not ours. Rachel nodded. Speaking of moving on, I have something to tell you too. My stomach clenched. What? The school district offered me the assistant principal position at Lincoln Elementary. It's a significant promotion, but it would mean longer hours and more responsibility. I relaxed. That's great news. You should take it. Are you sure? It would mean less time together, at least initially. Rachel, you're brilliant and you deserve professional success. I'm not going to be the kind of man who holds back the woman he loves. She smiled. The woman you love? It was the first time I'd said it out loud, though I'd been feeling it for weeks. Yes, I said. I love you, not because you helped me get revenge on Marta, not because you were there when my marriage fell apart, but because you're smart and funny and kind and you make me want to be a better person. She reached across the table and took my hand. I love you too. And not because you rescued me from my divorce, but because you're the most genuinely decent person I've ever known. We sat there holding hands across the kitchen table, two middle-aged people who had found each other in the wreckage of their previous lives. So, what happens now? I asked. Now we build something new, she said. Something honest and healthy and real. No more revenge plots? No more revenge plots, she agreed, though I reserve the right to be strategically vindictive if anyone tries to hurt you. I laughed. Deal. Same goes for you. That afternoon, I drove to the cemetery where my parents were buried. I hadn't been there since the divorce proceedings started, but I felt the need to talk to them, to process everything that had happened. I stood in front of their shared headstone thinking about the marriage they'd had. 43 years together, not always happy, but always committed. They'd fought sometimes, gone through rough patches, but they'd never betrayed each other the way Marta had betrayed me. I know you probably wouldn't approve of what I did, I said aloud, feeling slightly ridiculous but needing to say it anyway. But I couldn't let her destroy me. I couldn't let her win. The wind rustled through the trees and I imagined my father's voice. Sometimes you have to fight back, son, but don't let fighting change who you are. Good advice. I'd fought back and I'd won, but I was still fundamentally the same person. Still someone who preferred building to destroying, still someone who believed in fairness and honesty. I'd just learned that sometimes fairness requires consequences. When I got home, Rachel was in the backyard, planting flowers in the garden bed that Marta had always neglected. She looked up as I approached, dirt on her hands and a satisfied smile on her face. "How was your visit?" she asked. "Good. Clarifying." I knelt down beside her and picked up a small shovel. "What are we planting?" "Perennials. Things that will come back year after year, get stronger over time." "I like that metaphor." "I thought you might." We worked together in comfortable silence, planting flowers that would bloom long after the memory of our revenge had faded. As the sun set behind us, I realized that this quiet domestic scene with a woman I loved, building something beautiful together, was the real victory. Not the destruction of my enemies, but the construction of a new life. A year later, I stood in the back of a church in Evanston, watching my daughter walk down the aisle in my grandmother's wedding dress. Marta sat in the front row on the opposite side, looking older but more peaceful than I'd seen her in years. We'd nodded politely to each other before the ceremony but hadn't spoken. Rachel sat beside me, elegant in a navy blue dress, holding my hand as we watched Amelia marry the man she loved. When the minister asked if anyone objected to the union, the church was silent except for the sound of happy tears being wiped away. During the reception, I found myself standing next to Marta at the bar, both of us waiting for drinks. "She looks beautiful," Marta said, watching Amelia dance with her new husband. "She does. You did a good job raising her." "We did a good job," she corrected. "Whatever else happened between us, we were good parents." "Yes, we were." We stood there in comfortable silence for a moment. "I'm glad you're happy," she said finally. "You and Rachel. You deserve that." "Thank you. I hope you're finding happiness too." "I'm working on it. Therapy helps, and I like Phoenix. It's a chance to start over, be someone better." The bartender handed us our drinks, and we started to walk away in different directions. "Nick," Marta called after me. I turned back. "I'm sorry," she said. "For all of it. I know it's too late, but I needed to say it." "It's not too late," I replied. "Apologies are never too late." She smiled, the first genuine smile I'd seen from her in years, and walked back to her table. I returned to Rachel, who was talking with some of Amelia's college friends. "Everything okay?" she asked quietly. "Everything's perfect," I said, and meant it. Later that night, as we drove home from the wedding, Rachel asked, "Do you ever wonder what would have happened if we hadn't fought back? If we'd just let them get away with it?" I thought about it. I think we would have been destroyed. Not just our marriages, but our sense of self-worth, our ability to trust, our belief that actions have consequences. "Do you think we went too far?" "I think we went exactly as far as we needed to go," I said. "We didn't use violence, we didn't break any laws, we didn't destroy innocent people. We just made sure the truth came to light and let natural consequences follow. And now? Now we focus on building instead of tearing down. Now we focus on love instead of revenge." "I can live with that," Rachel said, reaching over to squeeze my hand. As we pulled into our driveway, I realized that revenge had been the catalyst, but love was the destination. The plotting and scheming had brought us together, but trust and respect were what would keep us together. I looked at the house we'd made into a home, at the woman who'd become my partner in every sense of the word, at the life we'd built from the ashes of our previous mistakes. Sometimes the best revenge is living well, but sometimes, before you can live well, you have to fight for the right to do so. We'd fought, we'd won, and now we were living the victory every single day.